Hi there. Today I'm going to be introducing you to the large data set, which is just an Edexcel document that, an Excel document provided by Edexcel, the exam people, for A-level maths, which some questions will be asked about. A lot of it with a whole load of statistics stuff that we haven't learnt yet, but what you need to be able to do is get online and download yourself a copy of this so that you can familiarize yourself with it. Now, if you're eagle-eyed and have a little look over here, you can see we've got 8 places. Now, you might not be able to read them all. The top 5 are all in the UK. One is in Jacksonville, USA. Slightly north of that, but to the east, we've got Beijing, China. And then right down in the southeast, we've got Perth in Australia. And you need to know a little bit about which ones of them are in the UK, where they are relative to each other. But don't panic about it, it's quite simple really. Okay, so moving on, I'm going to show you where to find your large data set. Right, so you're on Google. If you just type in, large data set, you can see that Edexcel is starting to come up, as is AQA. I'm not sure exactly what their large data set is. It's probably slightly different. Anyway, you just press that in there, and the first thing you get up is qualifications, pearson.com, AS and A levels. And if you press on that, then your computer it won't actually go to it, but what it should do is download the data set for you. You can then open that when it says, and up should pop something looking like this. And I will go through what all of this means. This is the cover sheet, and then you've got a bunch of pages for the different things which are coming up now. Okay. Enable editing, and then it's just taking a moment. There we go. So it's stuff that looks a bit like this, and we'll go into a bit more detail of what's going on. So there's a map of the UK here. There's an introduction here saying that you'll need to be able to select a sample. We've done that. Talking about cleaning data, calculating regression, hypothesis testing, all that sort of stuff. Do not worry about that yet. What we do need to learn a bit about is making sure that you know what this is. So you will need to go through these in your own time and make sure you're happy with them. I will pull up a few things now and we'll go through a few questions on it. I'm just going to start by just popping down this list and pointing out 1 or 2 things that may trip people up. So you don't need to know all of this information, but any of it could come up, strictly speaking. NA means something that's not available. I think that's fairly standard. But this one here, a trace or TR of rain, is an amount less than 0.05. That comes up, for example, this is on the Camborne tab, daily total rainfall, TR. And I have seen in the final exam a 1 marker asking what that means, or what impact that has on whatever it is that you're doing. So that's an important one. Other things, looking down here, it's worth you reading through it all. But one thing, a knot. Knots are a speed based on the nautical mile, which is a bit further than a mile. It's not exactly 1.15 miles, but it's close enough that that's what they say. So when they say a knot, it means 1 nautical mile per hour. Apart from that, we can deal with other things as we come up to them. Let's get on with some questions. Right, now obviously don't waste time copying down this table. It says look at the extract from the data set given above. Obviously that's to the right. So once you've had a look at that, have a look at those questions, pause the video, and then see if you agree with me. So the type of data represented by daily total rainfall, that's column here, but daily total rainfall, that's in millimeters. That's something that's been measured, so that must be continuous. So it's continuous, and then just continuous on its own is not enough, because we need to say what sort of data continuous is in the first place. And because it's numerical, that means it's quantitative data. Okay, so continuous quantitative data. Right, now we move on to Alison, investigating daily maximum gust. She wants to, so a gust is like those hard bits of wind that happen more than the rest of it. She wants to select a sample of size 5 from the first 20 days. So here's the first 20 days. She uses the first 2 digits of the date as a sampling frame, because if you look down there, those are all those numbers, which means she doesn't have to do anything, and generates 5 random numbers between 1 and 20. State the type of sample selected by Alison. Well, that is simple random. As opposed to if she'd gone systematic, which is when she would have then she would have done every 4 numbers from one of the first 4. Right, explain why Alison's process might not generate a sample of size 5. Right, we're looking at the daily maximum gust, and if you look here, NA there and NA there. So there are 2 days with no data, and she hasn't said that if she gets no data, she would generate another number until she had one. So that's all the reason there. Okay, so another question coming up, another series of 3 questions to do with the same data. So I'll cover that bit up so it's not distracting, and pause the video, give that a go. So for the mean daily temperature, we are adding up the first 5 days and dividing by 5, and the median, we're putting them in order, which should look something like this. Notice that I haven't just written 14 degrees, I've written 14.0 because all of the information has been given to 1 decimal place, so my answer should be as well, and I've got my units involved too. Also, that I put trace between 0 and 0.1 because trace is less than 0.05, isn't it? Right, lastly, the median rainfall for the same week in Perth was 19.0. Carl states that more southerly countries experience higher rainfall during June. So what you need to be saying there is, although that's true, that Perth is more southerly and it has experienced more rainfall than Herne, this is only a sample of 1. So that's not a big enough sample to support the statement. And you may find it tricky putting together these sorts of answers. So for now, every time we come up with one, write down what I've said, and each time just have a go, and you'll find that it gets easier and easier. And actually, well, some people find it easy anyway. Okay, moving on. Next question. Pause it and give this a go. So Dominic's going to take 2 days every month during the summer months. So why might this be good? It'd be good because it contains data from a few different months. So it's spread over the summer, isn't it? It spaces the data out over the summer quite well. Why might it be a poor sample size? It's going to be a very small sample, isn't it? The summer months, what's that, 4 months at tops, so that's going to only be a sample of 4 times 2 is 8. It is a small sample size. Okay, time to move on and have a look at the next little part. I'll put both these bits so you can have a go at these. Choosing the first day of each month and Why might this not be representative? Well, they are consecutive days, aren't they? And often one day of rain may make it more likely that the next day will be rain, or one hot day, as this is about temperature. So days are sort of influence each other when they're closely together, aren't they? And suggest a better way that he can choose his sample of days. And he just needs to randomize it. If you wanted to be really fancy, you could suggest systematic sampling, but you just need to suggest randomizing it. So number his days and take a random sample. Right, and we've just got one final question coming up, which will be an exam style one with some marks involved, so that'll be fun. Here it is. So pause this and give it a go. Notice that there's 3 marks for systematic sample. There are 3 specific things you've really got to get in there. So I've gone for, the first thing to do is you've got to number the days in order to create a sample frame. Then you'll want to show that why you're going for every 6. 186 divided by 30 is just over 6. So you randomly select one of the first 6 days and then take every 6th data point from there for the next 29. You don't have to say for the next 29, but I just put that in just in case you ended up with 31 because there's slightly more than 180. Right. Explain why Marie's sample would not necessarily give her 30 data points for her investigation. This is not about it might give you 31 because there's 186 there. It's actually because some of the data might not be there. So that was similar to what we had a couple of questions ago, wasn't it? Some of the data might not be available. And it seems a silly one because in reality, all she would do then is just go to the next data point, I would have thought. But they do love to ask it. All right, folks, that's all for now. Cheerio till next time.